Behind the Frenzy, sponsored by the My Auto Group.
Hey everyone, welcome into the Behind the Frenzy podcast. I am Dean Holzwarth, along with my good buddy Andy McDonald, and this is the last show of the high school season.
Last time that football's going to be back there.
The last time until next August. It's been a great ride so far. Andy and I were lucky enough to brave the elements and the snow conditions and the roads.
You were lucky
Me
enough
personally,
to-
I was there basically, all day Friday, all day Sunday. Obviously, we know the roads were treacherous on Sunday. Shout out to our coworker Braden for driving in that weather. Because
Did you drive back?
I did drive back, but it was clear on the way
I'm
back.
glad that you drove back for him.
He was sleeping on the way back, and I was
poor
driving.
guy.
But clear roads, but on the way there was a little bit scary. I'm not gonna lie.
I drove down and back, so Laney Gerber doesn't get any credit for
No,
that.
I drove Thanksgiving too.
right
Lane
back,
just doesn't drive.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so
it's
it is what it
crazy.
is.
Yeah.
But no, it was a great weekend at Ford Field. We got one state champion out of it, so 1 out of 3, I guess not bad.
Yeah.
But we looked at a lot of blowouts amongst the whole 8 divisions, except for the Uni Christian game.
Yeah, for sure. No, that game we kind of expected to be one of the closer ones, I think,
Yeah.
for sure, because we were talking about
Yeah.
how Unity Christian could make that game, and it seems like when they have made it, it's been a close game. But yeah, you mentioned that there was a scenario. You were there at actually.
Yeah.
You mentioned there was a scenario at the end of that game that you kind of questioned a little bit.
There was. I think a lot of people in Coach Tibby, I have a lot of respect for Coach Tibby and the job that he's done with that
Heck of a
program
coach.
through the years. And obviously in the press conference, he said he was kind of kicking himself kind of about the decision that they made there with about 5 minutes left in the game. They get to within 1, and they had been going for 2 and doing a pretty good job of it. So he decides to kind of go for a fake extra point, and he kind of had the snapper grab it and look for a pass. And like he said, he admitted he maybe got a little bit too cute with that.
Yeah.
Obviously that one play or one thing like that doesn't decide a game, obviously. But that was probably what he wanted to have back.
Yeah.
But that situation, Unity played just so well against a very good Dearborn team. And then unfortunately, Dearborn got the ball, and they just didn't let Unity get it back. Picked up a couple first downs, and that was kind of it. Lost 23-22.
Yeah, because at the same time, if the play works out, he's the smartest coach in the world,
Yeah.
and that's always how those plays kind of work out. And it's
Yeah.
like I'm always the believer of being the more conservative person, because that's just how I always feel about those games. I'm like, extend it, more can happen, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like at the end of the day, it's one of those things where like, as a coach, when that doesn't happen, you're probably the person that feels like you made the biggest
100%.
mistake. And
I've done it many times.
Let a group of people that
Yeah.
are playing in that game and keeping it close down. But at the end of the day, I'm sure his players had his back too, because I'm sure like if you're a player, you want them coaches to believe in you, and like the Lions talk about that all the time with Dan Campbell. That's another discussion if we think that's the right or wrong thing to do. Watch the other podcast. But yeah, no, it's definitely like it's one of those things where like they like to probably be believed in, but just certain situations it doesn't seem like the right call. But it sucks that they didn't come up on top, because it feels like it's the game that they could have won. And I wish that they would have.
Yeah, what a great year. I think they lost a pretty good senior class the year before. Basically only losing 1 game the year before. And those guys really stepped up and, scored a lot of points and really played well in the postseason to get to Ford Field.
I think they were our most like consistent team all year.
They were.
They just
They
like
were.
every week we were just kind of like, all right, they got it done. Like, a little shaky to start the playoffs, but other than
Yeah.
that, pretty good.
Yeah, Justin Phoebus did a great job at quarterback. He kind of really led that offense. And they just, it's tough in those situations to make the right call, right? Like I obviously I've been coaching for a long time. I remember certain games where, hey, I didn't. We're up by 3, closing seconds. I should have fouled, and a girl at the time, the game I remember, makes a 3-point shot, right? We go to overtime and we lose.
Classic.
So
yeah.
it's like, oh, I probably should have fouled right there,
Yeah.
right? Last night in the Tri-Uni game, as our varsity coach got that first win. We were up 3 with like 12 seconds left. He fouled with like 4 seconds left. He's like, I'm not gonna get beat or get it, go to another overtime on a 3. So he fouled. Kid made the first free throw from North Point, and then he missed intentionally, but we got the ball and we won the game.
Yeah.
So those are the tough situations as coaches that you have to make sometimes, and sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, and sometimes you just don't think about it in the moment, because that's what people don't realize what's so hard about coaching.
100%.
Like, things are moving so fast that when that many things are going through your head, like people sitting back watching on TV are like, how can't you make that decision right there? You know, people like you and me that come up here and talk on the mic, right? But like that is really, really hard to do. And again, different levels, you get paid more amounts of money, so there's different reasonings to it. But it's like at that level, like it never should be beat up for it too much. And Tibby did
Yeah.
a heck of a job just to even get that
He
team
did.
there.
He did. So Friday we went back. Oh no, it was Sunday. Sorry, because of Michigan State, Maryland, that exciting game that happened. So we went back on Sunday.
Yeah, we did.
For Schoolcraft. Braden and I were there early. Obviously, as I just mentioned, this was a program, Andy, that hadn't been there in 24 years.
Wow.
First year coach Dan DeVries, his son Jack DeVries was the quarterback. His brother, or his other son's also on the team. So kind of a good family tradition there, family bond there. But they played a very good Menominee. My gosh, I did
Menominee?
Menominee.
I got you.
I
Menominee.
practiced
They
it.
played a very tough Menominee
They
team.
played a very tough Menominee
You're not
team.
from the UP,
Yes, I got
so
it.
you're
Thank
good.
you, I got that. But no, lots of credit. Obviously, they just didn't have enough to match up with them. But what a great job to even get there to Ford Field this year. And Schoolcraft has had a lot of tradition. Won a few state titles back in the 90s, I think it was, and then 2001. But just to get back there, I thought was great.
They've always still been a competitive program since I've been around. I don't
100%.
feel like they've been not in the conversation to get there. So Menominee, though, like I mentioned, with all the years in Division 6, them playing West Catholic, it seemed like every year.
Yeah.
They definitely have a lot of pedigree of getting there and making that game, even though they didn't win it a lot of the time back then. Well,
Yep.
they're making their mark now. So it's not like it's really a surprise to me necessarily that Schoolcraft's lost just not being there in so long, but it's one of those games that I just don't like. I don't know enough about Menominee every year to know how good they're going to be going into that game or who's the better team. Well, on that day, at least, they were definitely the better team. That's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And I forgot to mention, too, I'll go back to the Uni game real quick. Dearborn Divine Child won the state title for the first time since 85.
Wow.
So kind of a long time coming for that program. Just
Yeah,
wanted
for
to
sure.
mention that, right?
That's crazy.
So West Catholic, we had one lone wolf remaining.
They left no doubt.
To try to win a state championship. And if you remember, West Catholic has now won 8 state championships. And I don't know, Andy, if you recall any of them being close-ish.
No,
Right?
not really.
They
There's
really
a couple,
perform on the big stage, and they really leave little doubt who the best team is.
Yeah, no, for sure. When they've made it, it's usually their best teams, and that's how it kind of was in those years. They won 3 or 4 in a row. I think it was 4 in a row.
Yeah.
And it's just it seems like it was always like that. There was one year where they had the catch on the goal line where the kid kind of bobbled it a little bit way back when I was in high school. His name's Drake Wooten. I'm sure he'll love me for calling him out for
good
that.
word.
But yeah,
Or good memory,
yes, he's a friend of mine. So, but yeah, that's he'll talk to you about it if you ever see him. But anyway, yes, they did win that game. And I think that was a little bit closer. I think that state championship was a little bit closer. But yeah, they just have this degree of dominance. And Landon, kind of came into that program when things were a little weird for the first time for West Catholic in a while.
Yeah.
Like they had kind of fallen off a lot. And obviously he got there in 21 and got the job, or 22 and got the job done.
Yep.
But to get back again after not making it a couple years past that, Goliath of Catholic Central that I kind of mentioned in the post game. I said to Landon when we were talking to him in the hallway, I was just like, I'm sure you're getting sick of me asking this question, so I'm gonna, how does it feel now to get past all that and actually have the state championship instead of having to answer questions about Catholic Central?
Yeah.
And he said awesome, just because it's that's what he wanted to do when he got here. I think he wanted to he says continue the tradition. I think he tries to give credit to everybody in the past. It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same for a few years there before he got there. He truly has changed it, and he deserves a lot of credit for what he's done, because again, games like this, that Notre Dame prep team didn't seem like they were that bad to me. I feel like they had some talent.
They did.
And West Catholic just went out there and absolutely waxed them. That was West Catholic has had so many games this year where they have played on their competition. It feels like Tony Fisher. He made sure to mention that to me on the sidelines.
did,
I know he's
Tony
a
did.
friend of the podcast.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that it feels like they could have beat a lot of teams. They left no doubt in this game. I mean, they're the best team in that conference, and they deserve to win it. And I'm happy to see them get the job done.
Yeah, they go up 28-0 there. So at one point, interception kind of got Pontiac Notre Dame a touchdown, so 28-7, and then they didn't have any letdown. And just back-to-back pick sixes.
Yeah, no, for sure. That was a crazy way to start the second half. It was just okay.
Well,
there's little to no
span.
doubt.
Yeah.
And that's, to be fair to, West Catholic, they got lucky a couple times on a couple of those tip passes that's the way that, Grady
You have to have some breaks sometimes.
Grady Augustine's great talent at quarterback.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that he would admit, and I think the one thing that Landon would admit going into next year is a little bit less of the jump ball when he throws the ball up there, because there's been a lot of times this year where I know he's been frustrated coming off the sideline when he throws an interception and stuff, because a lot of the times it's just kind of been like he'll make these plays where it's like, wow, and then like a Josh Allen type thing where it's he makes the best plays, then some plays you're like, why are you throwing that there? And I think that's something that they'll continue to grow and going into the offseason.
A senior,
but
though, right?
I thought he was a junior,
He was a senior.
I guess we'll have to figure that one out.
We'll figure that one out.
Either way, he's a heck of a talent. He's a great quarterback for them. But those two deflections were just wild that they scored on. And one of them he got tackled a little short, but nevertheless.
They just kind of put everything together, and it was great to see. Obviously Dan Roan had so much success, and just kind of see Landon kind of continue that a little bit. And I feel like the Catholic Central West Catholic things is kind of like the Michigan Ohio State thing, right? Like if you beat this team, well, except for last year, I guess, with Ohio State, but you're gonna win a state championship. You're gonna have the opportunity to win.
No, everybody knows it. I mean, going to that game, everybody knows it's what's going to happen. And then you still play football games, believe it or not, after that. That's kind of how it feels, for them. So, it's awesome to see him not just only beat Catholic Central, but not have a slip up after that, because that has happened. I remember covering a couple of years ago, there was a Catholic Central team that lost in the semis before they were going to go there to a team up in northern Michigan where they were playing. I forget who it was that they lost to, but it was kind of like really unexpected that they lost that game. So it does happen on occasion, but it usually feels like that's like the Super Bowl of that division,
Yep, 100%. Well, that's going to be a wrap on the 2025 season. Like I said, we really saw some really good games this year. We saw some programs like Kennewood Hills and East Kentwood kind of have major turnarounds. Port Central obviously made it to the semi. So we saw a lot of really good football teams in this area compete and do well, and we got one state championship out of it.
Yeah, for sure. No, it was a great year. Again, we mentioned so many times that we felt like things were a lot more competitive this year, and I love that. So hopefully that keeps up. I appreciate anybody that watched this podcast and decided to click on it. We had a lot of good reviews from people this year. Even though sometimes people give us a little bit of crap, we're just trying to do our job up here. And I think I look back to myself in high school when I played sports. Like I would have loved, or just watched sports in general in high school. I would have loved to have something to click on where I could have people's opinions that don't have a bias, and we're just coming up here trying to do our best jobs to give you guys what we think we see out there every single week from what we can gather. So appreciate everybody watching, and it meant a lot. So.
Yeah, definitely. We love high school football. I've been around high school football now for 30 years. Obviously a little bit older than Andy is, but obviously he's done a great job with covering high school football as well. And we just want to bring you the best opinions we can, and we do appreciate the people who watch. Sometimes we're at a game or something when people come up to us and say something to us about the pod. It kind of makes us feel good, like, oh, okay, someone does watch, and they are interested in it. So like I said, we're looking forward to doing it next year as well. But thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next year.